For over 17 years, I've been a business development professional across many industries, from private capital to professional services like accounting and law firms. Now, no matter what industry I'm in, the role of business development professionals is often not well understood or mixed up with other roles like sales and marketing. But there is a clear explanation for this, and that is because the role in itself demands that the professional think outside the box and to develop strategies for businesses that don't necessarily follow the constructs of common roles like sales and marketing. Hey everyone, I'm Chris, and welcome to this Professional Life podcast. In today's episode, I dive deep into the subject of business development, and I invited a special guest to this podcast to share his insights and experiences. While this role in organizations might be often overlooked or misunderstood, business development is crucial for any company's growth as it plays a significant role in increasing profitability and creating new opportunities. Through business development, companies can establish themselves as leaders in their industry and develop a competitive edge. As I've often said, a seasoned business development professional brings entrepreneurial thinking to an organization. Now, BD professionals essentially have to think like owners or executives of the company, as they are tasked with prospecting, cultivating relationships, and then often rethinking operational processes to make the business better. Angelo Talamayan is a senior business development leader at M&P, one of the leading accounting and consulting firms in Canada. I met Angelo a few years ago as our paths crossed during our own individual business development initiatives at our respective companies at that time. I've seen the successes and accomplishments at his firm, and I wanted to learn more about his secret sauce when it comes to business development. Now, what's interesting is that Angelo actually didn't start out as a business development professional. Instead, he started in a very traditional career after he obtained his accounting degree. Angelo admits that he wasn't always a great accountant.
I actually had an accounting degrry and
okay.
I started in accounting. I was a brutal accountant. I started internal audit. So that's, being, inside, actually at the Brick. So when they used to be a publicly traded company.
That's the furniture company.
Right? Yeah, the furniture company before they had an internal audit department when they were public. So that was my first professional career right after university. I spent about 3-4 years in audit. But what happened was I was better at connecting with the different VPs and different folks that are technically our clients. So as an internal audit analyst, part of my role is connecting with the appropriate department head, kind of figuring out an audit plan and maybe navigating some of the, tougher conversations. There is a requirement to do your job properly to build a strong relationship with the folks that you're auditing with.
Right.
Now, I was better at that than actually doing the audit work. So what essentially happened was I noticed my boss would just, transition me more into the relationship side of audit versus the actual technical side of audit. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Which I enjoy. Let's do it. So I was headhunted by a firm called Robert Half.
Okay. Yeah.
So Robert Half, for folks that are listening are not familiar with that firm, so they're one of the biggest recruiting firms. So essentially, they would work on accounting, finance professionals, HR professional, things like that. So I think I was getting interviewed for a position they're trying to recruit for.
Right.
But during the interview process with the recruiter, towards the end, I remember he was, well, sounds like you don't like the audit world. That you seem to love building relationships and connecting the dots. Would you consider working for us, and would you consider a career in business development? So that's my first go. I started there as a business development / recruiting manager, and that was a fun journey. Like that, obviously I was coming in green without any sort of business development skills, but at the end of the day, just chatting with people, connecting the dots, and that led me to a national firm called PwC.
Right.
And then from there, now at M&P, but for the past, let's say 10-15 years, I've been working as a business development professional in professional service.
So it's interesting because business development and tax audit or audits.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like two different levels of skill sets, each with its own challenges and uniqueness. So what is it about the business development side? You talked about connecting dots, making relationships, but what about that interested you more than the I guess the grunt work through the audit
Yeah,
side?
no, I've always been a curious guy, even, growing up. And, I've always, looking into stuff and also, did a lot of travel because of the curiosity, different cultures and all. And this will tie into business development shortly here. But my approach to, and maybe what I've kind of done during my business development career is I really apply a curiosity approach on it. So, every time I connect with a company or a client or someone I do really am curious on their business model. I was very interested on how everything works. And that level of curiosity has led me to a career in business development because my approach to business development is really getting to know the company and at the end of the day to actually be able to service their needs. One of the biggest things to get ahead really is to actually know what your clients are looking for, what are the biggest opportunities and challenges that usually doesn't translate in a normal sales interaction. Normally, sometimes in sales, you have a product, and then you market that product.
Yeah.
My approach is like, oh, you guys really do some cool stuff. Like, tell me about it. Okay, cool. And then, oh, there's a challenge here. Oh, how can I help?
Yeah.
That's my approach to business development, and I've always approached that level of curiosity from the start all the way here, and that led me to my career at M&P.
Yeah. It's interesting you bring that up because I find a lot of executives and even business owners often, and I made a video about this, they can't separate business development and sales. And they're two unique, I feel, roles that a company has. And to your point, sales is like, I got a product, I got a service, I can sell you on it, I'm closing you on that. Whereas business development is like, what is it we need to do to make your business better? Yeah. And I feel companies have that struggle. So I see like job postings where like, we're looking for a business development person. But then you look at the task list and it's like, that's a salesperson.
Yeah, there's KPIs, metrics, and which can still be in a business development role.
It can, yeah. But it's a different time frame too, right? Like business development's a bit of I would say like an investment by the firm because it's, building out that long term.
For sure.
Whereas your sales, you've got like, clients in the pipeline, you got to close on a specific product. And so I find that companies seem to just, I don't know what it is, but not separate that. And I think there's a lot of organizations that struggle with that. And they get very frustrated that, oh, why can't that person do sales? Or why can't that person do BD? And it's almost like they mismatch those.
Yeah. And there are similarities, but how I look at it, and I completely 100% agree with what you said. I mean, the sales approach is you're just focused on meeting your monthly quota, how much products I need to sell. While I think a business development function is looking at how do we grow this market share? How do we expand to this different markets? What are different sales funnels that we need to look at so that ensures a robust sales pipeline, not just for this month, but like the next year, the next 3-5 years. Yeah. We need to hit 125 million 4 years. How can we do that? Mm-hmm. That's a business development approach versus sales, where it's looking at, well, this is how much products we need to sell in a month, and this is the ways we need to approach it. Go ahead, right? Yeah. There's some, obviously, there's a lot of gray in that, but but they're two different approach, right? Yeah.
Can you share with us maybe some cool BD initiatives that you've accomplished or executed? What are some memorable and top initiatives you've done so far in your career?
Yeah, no. One thing that I've kind of started here at M&P is one of the biggest challenges sometimes that I've seen in professional services is, we try to position ourselves as thought leaders, which awesome, right? Like that's all good. But sometimes to the detriment of the interaction with a client, where you'll have a normal interaction with, let's say, a client in a professional services firm, and it's all about giving advice right off the bat, right? Not taking the time to fully listen to that client. So that's one challenge that I've seen. Another challenge that I've seen is kind of what I referenced a while ago is approaching it as we have a product and then this is what we sell. So for example, I'm a tax specialist. I'm going to sell a tax reorg regardless of the conversation I have,
Right.
even because that's what what I'm known for. So what I've started at MNP, which is really a simple branded meeting, is we call it an innovation workshop, where it's just a workshop where we have, I usually facilitate it, and we have different subject matter experts. We really spent the first half of that workshop, and usually these workshops are 2 hours long. The first half really getting to know the client. We'll talk about everything under the sun: finance, operations, customer, people, business model, what they want to accomplish in the next 3-5 years. Because really our goal in that first half is to understand what they need and where they want to go as a company. We're not, during that time, it's not like a service line approach first. We're not coming in there with selling them a bunch of stuff. We're really making sure that we
Listening and learning, fully engaging,
100%.
figuring out what it is that's going on.
Yeah, and then the second half is when our subject matter experts weigh in, provides insights, ideas, and solutions. But it's customized. So usually I'd have our first call with that client, ask them a few high-level questions on where they want to go, and based on that conversation, I will assemble a team. Like for example, if they're looking to expanding the U.S., depending on what they're looking at, based on that, I will assemble the team that will suit that conversation. Okay. So that's the approach we've taken. It's more of a client-centric approach, and our clients have really loved it too. And we offered complimentary here in the Edmonton market space, and for us, like that's been from the feedback that we've been getting, it's been great, just because we're really coming in there without any sort of preconceived idea. They can walk away with no engagement from M&P, but it gives the opportunity for that entrepreneur to talk about what they want to accomplish in the next few years and have subject matter experts weigh in and provide insights.
So interesting. So you said you get to pick the team, I'm assuming the consultants and the accountants that would come in and service the clients based on what you're hearing in this conversation. And so your role then at M&P, is it generally, I guess, across the firm, do the business development folks have that kind of leeway to build out the team that then services the clients? How does that work?
Yeah, no, interesting. So I was the first BD person at M&P. So what allowed the great, which has its pros and cons, right? So at first you're like, what are you doing here? Like, why do we need a BD guy in a successful firm? Or we've been doing this for 50 years. Like, what do you mean? Like, partners do business development, right? Like that's really about it, right?
Where have I heard that before?
You probably had that same feedback. So definitely some roadblocks, but nothing crazy to a point where, But so now we're looking at expanding, and we have a few business development professionals at different offices as we are a national firm. The great thing is we've created a playbook here in Edmonton that a lot of our counterparts can replicate. Now, because of that, like the business development function at M&P is seen as a strategic role versus just versus just like someone selling the services, right? Like you're driving the conversations, you're driving the type of clients that we want the firm to be associated with, and that's huge.
That's amazing to me, how you got that through. This is why I wanted to chat with you too,
that's why I'm here, man.
Because that was being at my previous professional service firm. That was one of the struggles, right? Was to convince the partners that having strategically placed business development experts to really dig into these areas to find out low-hanging fruit even with clients. There was always this struggle, right? I'm not saying all the partners were like this, but definitely there were certain partners like, oh, what is this BD person doing talking to a client? And I always said, well, that's the only way I can create strategic plans for you. for the firm and things like that. So I find it very fascinating that you were able to, get this initiative going at M&P. So
It took time.
oh no,
Yeah.
I imagine. Yeah, I know you told me before. And so what are kind of obviously currently there's some successes on that, and sounds like are there plans to expand this further? And it sounds like there are.
Yeah, it looks like there's conversations on top that we're looking at expanding this process at a more national level. But
That's awesome.
yeah,
That's awesome.
which is cool. But at the end of the day, like it's when I look at it, it's simple, right? Like we're just having a really well run meeting.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's maybe branded. There might be someone taking notes.
Yeah.
There might be someone that's facilitating the conversation. But all it is like a really branded meeting where 80% of the clients speak all the time. And then we listen and we give advice based on what we heard.
Yeah.
That's really all it is.
Yeah, that's amazing. You were recently promoted to the Alberta Provincial Leader of Technology, Media, and Telecommunications.
It's a handful of a title.
It is.
Yeah, it's
like,
long.
is there an acronym that you're going to decide on?
TMT, they call it TMT.
TMT. So what does that mean? What, does your job change? Has that changed, your responsibility? So maybe give me a bit of background what this new title means for you.
No, it just adds more to the plate. So really, as folks are familiar with, like here in Alberta, we've really seen the uptake in the tech sector, right? Like we have companies like Jobber and Social Asset Management here in Edmonton. We have Benevity and in Calgary, and so a lot of these companies that usually would leave Alberta to go somewhere else and headquartered, really for the past 5-10 years, they've decided to stay. And there's a lot of reasons why. But to a point where it started to become really a sector and a community here in Edmonton and Calgary and in the province. So really the role is, getting M&P tied into that community. We think we can help that sector very well, just because those companies in that sector have a lot of needs. Like they're growing rapidly. Tech is pretty much the same as any other business. Everything's just 5 times faster.
Right.
The race to your 50th employee is 5 times faster. The exit is 5 times faster. The raising capital is 5 times faster, and so everything is just faster. So what that means, there's a bit of a dedicated approach to kind of servicing that clientele. Right. So that is the role. So really, kind of leading the team here in Edmonton and Calgary, and we have here at M&P, it's a cross-functional team where we'll have a team of accountants and consultants and digital people that can really service that market, and same with Calgary as well. So leading that team, getting us connected with some of these companies, kind of listen and being that face and that person that kind of looks at what are the biggest needs in that sector and how M&P can help. So it's a new role. Technically, it doesn't fully start until June, but obviously, we're working
gearing
on
up for it.
Gearing up for it now.
What are you hearing a lot from? I mean, even before this role, obviously you hang out a lot in the tech space here in Edmonton. Anyways, you're very tied into the ecosystem. What are some things you're hearing from tech companies in Edmonton and Alberta in terms of the direction they see the industry going and kind of the future of it?
In Alberta, just kind of
in Alberta, I guess.
Yeah.
More
So
specific.
Since the past few months to a year, it's been challenging for the tech community, with obviously the Silicon Valley Bank situation, how interest rates has really put a lot of pressure on a lot of the fundraising activities. But I think the future is bright here in Edmonton and, for Alberta. There's a lot of things going for us. I mean, culturally, Alberta have always been an entrepreneurial province. Right. Yep. We were farmers before. We were when oil and gas was covered here. We commercialized that. We've always been, roll up our sleeves and do what we can to capitalize on this opportunity. Yep. So that's why I'm not surprised that there's a bit of an upswing in tech, because it's roll up your sleeves and how do we commercialize a lot of the inventions or IP that's developed here in Alberta. And Alberta honestly has been world class in terms of research. We've just never had a chance to commercialize it for a while, but now it's starting to come up. Like with Amy and the U of A, we have the third highest rated research facility on AI in the world.
Right.
We have the first computing science department in Canada is at the U of A.
Right.
So there's always been that academic approach, but now we're seeing the environment where a lot of these IPs are getting commercialized and they're actually staying here in Edmonton.
Nice.
Another thing that probably is a good kind of way why there's a lot of upswing and the future is bright is we have kind of what I mentioned. We have those kind of companies where they decide to stay. Probably back in maybe when Startup Edmonton started coming up back in 2012, 2013. A lot of those different companies have been successful, and a lot of them actually decided to stay, which is super cool because if you have a successful company and they stay here in the province, they employ different folks, and sometimes those employees start their own companies. Right. And you repeat the circle. And what we're hoping for is if there's a liquidity event where maybe a bigger Edmonton company, it's happened in Calgary now, but if there's a huge liquidity event, that will trigger a lot of economic activity for that sector.
Right.
Where hopefully those folks stay again and reinvest in a lot of the companies. And probably the last thing I want to point out is we really have a lot of really good accelerators, incubators, associations in the province with Platform Calgary, with Threshold Impact VMS here at the U of A, Edmonton Unlimited, Startup Edmonton. There's Rainforest. There's a lot of those that put an anchor in our province to create a community. Oh, Startup ENT too, they're killing it. So yes. A lot of those that. So it's really like with anything. It's really a mixed pot of things on why I think we're going to a positive direction. Obviously, there's headwinds, with interest rates and SVP's collapse and things like that. But I think that the future is still bright, regardless of what has transpired in the past year.
Yeah. Now you bring up Calgary a little bit, and I know within the province we always have sports rivalries and city rivalries between Edmonton and Calgary, but I will say from my observation, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but Calgary seems to be leading a little bit on the tech side. I think Edmonton a few years ago had kind of led the push, but I would say over the last 2 years, it seems like the growth in tech has been a lot higher in Calgary. Are you seeing the same on your end?
Yeah. Calgary is definitely a bigger market, right. And you can just look at the raw numbers. They have more tech companies. They have more capital raised for the past few years. And compared to Edmonton, but it's been a rival city for sure, and they might. And again, I'm not 100% sure on why that is. Maybe they've done a better job at getting the community together and things like that. But I think we need to look at it in a different way. Okay. I think we need to look at it bigger than Edmonton and Calgary's rivalry. We need to look at it as a combined unit. Right, we're competing with different regions, right? We're competing with Waterloo, we're competing with, others like Austin and Silicon Valley and things like that. So we got to think bigger. There should be a lot more, collaboration between both cities, and even on the investor side, there should be a lot more connections made for both cities.
Right.
But I guess it's tough because obviously the Flames is the Flames, the Oilers are the Oilers.
Well, sports is sports. Economy is another thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I even think just like The Last of Us that was filmed.
Yeah.
They utilized all of Alberta, right? It wasn't just Calgary. It was like they had scenes in Edmonton, scenes in Calgary, scenes in Canmore, Banff, and that's where the power is. To your point, if we work together.
Obviously, the film industry did a great job, kind of, having a more Alberta push to get The Last of Us here in Alberta, and I'm hoping that we're doing the right the same way in tech, and there are approaches to that now too. With like if you look at the different associations doing well, like Platform Calgary is collaborating now with Edmonton Limited. Startup TNT has a branch in Calgary. So there are opportunities to do that, and I think we need to do more, and we need to think bigger. We need to take this to a more global approach versus just thinking about small
Interprovincial
interprovincial rivalries,
or intermunicipal rivalries.
Yeah, we got to think international. We got to think bigger.
Yeah, I want to ask you about business development success, right?
Sure.
So I do a lot of videos on that, but from your standpoint, for people coming into the profession, and I'll call it a profession, the business development profession, what are some keys to success in this role? Because it's a very, what you mentioned before, it's a very dynamic role. But the general theme is, how are we helping business?
For sure.
So what are some of the key successes that you feel, whether it's personality, whether it's environment, from your experience? Can you share some of that?
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, the first one I've mentioned already, which is curiosity, is huge. If you're a type of person that just have a bit of a spin on, hey, like how does things work, and how does that really translate to this career? Because in theory, if you have the ability to actually get into the weeds of things in a conversation, and that person open up to you just based on your general curiosity, that's huge, right? And so curiosity is huge. Having strong listening skills is important. I teach. I think you've done the same too, but I teach a lot of business development courses at M&P, and one thing I tell folks is like, honestly, like when we're talking client, like I say a number, and this is not something I created, but really like an extreme number, like let the client speak 80% of the time, which just shows that it should be all about the client. And so that's important, because at the end of the day, like if you're not nailing the needs and the opportunities in front of you, like you can be the best salesperson, but like if they don't, at the end of the day, if they don't need that service, they don't need that service.
Right.
Right. And then if you're looking at it long term too, if you've actually listened to them and understand what their biggest pain points are, there's some depth into that as well. But if you truly understand what they're looking for and what they need, and you're able to provide that, that's a client for life. So that's really the approach. Curiosity, listening, being adaptable as well. Like there's a lot of, like your day can change. You can lose proposals here and there. Like you just have to have.
That's a big one. Adaptability.
Yeah.
That's the absolute big one.
Yeah. And even for you, right? Like you've pivoted to podcasting. You're creative enough to do other stuff as well. And I think that's important to have a successful business development career, because it's a dynamic role. Like you can't just have the same recipe that you have years ago. Like it's you have to be very adaptable, and you can't go up. You can't be too high and too low as well. Like I don't know if it's a sports analogy, but that's kind of what the approach I had for someone looking into business development.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing about BD is like you can come. There's no. Do you know any? Can you take a university degree with business development?
No.
Can you? No. Right. So
Yeah.
like if you look at everyone that come into this career, like no one grew up and said, I want to be a business development professional.
Yeah.
Right. All of us, you, me included, fell into this.
Yes.
Right. Like
Absolutely.
no one has. So, and that that's why it's a mix of things, right? It's a mix of your personality, it's a mix of your approach and your outlook in life, and that might lead you to that. And even for me, like I was an accountant. So you really, like if you look at it, it's like the other way of the pendulum, right? So
Yeah.
And then jump into the business development side of things.
Yeah.
So it's a big jump, but
And and it comes with time too, to your point. Like, so I spent 5 years as a teacher.
Oh, wow.
That was my very first career
interesting.
many years ago. I started out teaching. And then from there I moved into the private capital markets.
Oh.
And I fell into more of a presenting kind of investor relations role, because no one else was able to present on that specific project we were looking to raise capital with. And then that transformed into more of a official BD type role. But it takes time. I think that's the thing.
Yeah, it takes time.
Yeah.
It takes time, and even your background, that's super interesting, because as a teacher, like you're you gotta have your top-notch communication skill set there, and you're dealing with different type of people, different kids, right? So, and there's a level of that in business
challenges every
development
day too.
So
Yeah.
you're not dealing with the same people over and over again, and that gets you reps, right? So those are probably a lot of transferable skills as well. And I'm probably not answering your question, because what I'm sounding like is really you can get any background and get into this, but really it's a mix of things that makes you a successful business development person.
But that goes, it reflects the role itself. When people ask, what do you do? Like, I always get that.
My parents doesn't even know what I do.
My parents just say,
No,
like, what
no.
exactly did you do? Like, when I was at dentist, like, what is exactly you do? And same thing here. It's like, what is it that you do? It's not, as you said, like, if you can say, oh yeah, I do accounting, then it's very clear, right? I'm a computer programmer. It's very clear. But because the role has to be dynamic, right? You mentioned, like, you have to be able to, pull from wherever to find a solution for the client.
100%.
So if you're just focused on this one thing, you're not really going to succeed from a business development standpoint.
No, and it's a very, you have to be very open-minded, right?
Yeah.
Like it's, that's the approach. If you're the type of person that, hey, like, this is the parameters I want to live my life with, and I want to know if I do step one, I get, I get to this level, and then I do step two, I get to this level. It doesn't work like that in business development, right? Like you might be doing everything right, and then you might not be successful in a client interaction or a pitch.
Yeah.
So that's why there's a level of being dynamic is very important, to your point.
Yeah. Angelo, thank you so much for taking time out of your
is
busy
awesome.
schedule to join me on this podcast.
No, this is great. Yeah.
Your insights are very valuable, and I was super excited to chat
This is
with
super
a
cool.
fellow business development professional.
There's not a lot of us. There's
Yeah.
only a handful in the city in professional services.
There
But
you
I'm
go.
glad we connected, and I know it's awesome to work with you when you were in your previous role, and I'm glad that you're doing awesome. Like this space is amazing. If folks are listening, this office is.
You've now seen the brick room.
Yeah, but I mean, you guys got to get out of this room. There's like beams, and it's a super cool place. So amazing. Congrats.
Thank you for joining, Angelo.
Yeah, awesome.
All right, take
Cool.
care.
Thanks.
That's Angelo Talamayan, Business Development Lead and Alberta Provincial Leader of Technology and Innovation at M&P. Thank you for listening to this episode, and make sure to like and follow on whatever platform you're listening to. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe and leave your comments below and your thoughts about business development. That's it for this episode. Thank you for joining, and take care. I will catch you in the next one.